welcome. You are here with Dr. Nilda Perez with Business Foresight, creating strategies towards your extraordinary future. Hello, and welcome to the Dr. Nilda Business Foresight Show. Once again, I have another fabulous guest, and I think this you guys are really going to enjoy. Her name is Ivette Mayo. She is the owner and CEO of Yo Soy I Am LLC, which I'm going to tell you all about. So this company is she's a power advocate, and she's always ready to inspire, engage, empower her clients to find their purpose and their success. So she's transferred her 25 years of success in the corporate global career, and she's taken that and she's now training and consulting firms. She's also an author. She's the author of the 30-Day Guide to Your Power, which is awesome. It's a powerful outcomes through powerful words. Her book is on Amazon.com, and we're going to be giving you all of this information as the show proceeds. So this is a 30-day transformational guide, and it takes you through a journey eliminating, limiting thoughts, limiting beliefs, and you're inheriting these beliefs that we inherit as children, which are most of the time god-awful, and she helps you discover your truth in your productivity. So she's featured as a disruptive innovator, which is right up my alley, in the New York Times bestseller book. She is featured as a disruptive innovator in the New York Times bestseller book, Self-Made, Becoming Empowered, Self-Reliant, and Rich in Every Way. And this book was in Random Book House and is written by Nellie Gallant. And I think many of you probably know her. Yvette is a certified trainer, teacher, speaker. She's a John Maxwell leadership trained. She's leadership trained as a certified coach. She is appointed to the public diplomacy program on global women issues in the New York State Department in 2012 through 2016, so this has been ongoing. She is a Latina leader. She's been in the NBCLatino.com, and she's also a leadership faculty member of the Hispanic Alliance for Corporate and Enhancement in 2012. She's made Entrepreneur of the Year, and which is a fabulous thing to be in. She is Entrepreneur of the Year of the Ana Maria Arias Memorial Fund Award of Latina Style magazine in 2009, and she is the creator of a Latina-inspired stationery, which is called Yo Soy Expressions. Welcome, 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 Yvette.
Welcome.
Hola.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Perez, for having me here. So do I call you Nilda? Do I call you Dr. Nilda, Dr. P, Dr. What do you want? What do I call you?
You call me. Just call me.
Just call me.
Just
Okay.
call me. Yes.
Well, this is exciting. So hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in and letting us share the things that we want to talk. And this is a first. We've talked on the phone, so this is the first time we've gotten a chance to see each other.
Right.
So,
right. Yes. So, and I've been following you for a while, and I've been following you on Power on Heels Network on Facebook. So you have quite a network there, and you have events, and you have different things going on as a result, which I am totally enamored with. So, the thing is that as Latinas, to be able to collect other Latinas and to be so powerful, these are things that attract me. So I've been watching you for a while, and we spoke a few weeks back, and I was quite fascinated with what I learned from you as a person. So I want to start with, where did you start all of this? You have a 25-year career, which you don't even look like you could possibly have a 25-year career.
Okay, well, first of all, let me just put it out there, as my friend Lynn Ponder says with her movement, Be Numberless. I am 55 years old.
Oh,
so I tell everybody I am preserved in manteca. And for those non-Latinos who are out there, I'm preserved in grease. The frying grease, like Crisco.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's just the Puerto Rican way. What can I say?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yes, I'm half Puerto Rican myself, so I get it. So, all right. So tell me about yourself. How did you even start in this path to be able to help women? I know you've been a consultant for many years. You're a leadership coach for many years. So, again, after being in the corporate world, what made you make the shift? Because this was quite a shift from being in the corporate world, I mean, honestly, like, what do most people look for? They have a job, they have a great job, and then they take that and then they're ready to retire, you know, especially they're like, okay, so and you just started an entire movement. And I want to know about your upbringing, what made you do this?
We only have an hour. I mean, you're asking.
We can do this.
This is a laundry list.
Okay,
so,
we want the highlights. How's that?
Okay. So let me just kind of start you from a couple places. So I'm from a little island called Puerto Rico, as I mentioned before. I'm from a little town called Manatí, and I'm from a little barriada called El Tamarindo, right? And so I left Puerto Rico when I was 6 years old. So we made that migrant moved from the island to the States. My dad was in the Navy, and we moved to the Mecca of all immigration, Norfolk, Virginia. Okay?
Oh, okay.
So now we've moved into a community that didn't speak, we didn't speak English. We didn't have a coach. We didn't know. So back then we were in a unique situation. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because my dad was in a unique situation, and he was either on his military ship or teaching. What did that create? It caused us to constantly move. And so from the time I was in kindergarten to the time I was in 7th grade, my brother and I went to 13 different schools.
Wow.
And so today we call that acculturation assimilation. Back then we called it living. We were surviving. Mm-hmm. And so change is a constant change was something that I grew up with. So I'm comfortable with that. But as we moved and settled in Southern California, I am by way of San Diego, California. That's where we settled. That's where I went to middle school, high school, and college. And so that's where mommy and papi and my rest of my family are. But again, I'm Puerto Rican, living in a very dominant culture, which is Mexican. So again, a lot of it, adapting and simulating. Even though we spoke the same language, our cultures were different. Right. Again, assimilating.
Right.
By the time I got to 1984, I married a Texan. I have 2 children from that marriage, and he's Polish Texan. So my 2 children are half Puerto Rican, half Polish. We call them Po-Ricans. Okay. And I moved to Texas in 84. Another community, unlike me having to adapt and assimilate. I realized that for me, that part of my life is easy, but I also know as I'm in this teaching capacity now, change is not something people easily embrace.
Absolutely not.
So every time I started my corporate career in banking and moved into various different areas and ended up in the travel industry working for a major carrier in the sales and marketing area, and then moved into training. But what I always found was that people did not feel comfortable with change. Anytime you ruffle somebody's feathers with, the word change, they either close their arms up really quick and their shoulders get all tight and they roll their eyes because they just know that, their comfort zones were going to be disrupted. Me, I'm like, bring it on. Right. So I realized that I had an opportunity to teach.
Okay.
Help people through that. When I got into sales, was very successful, moved into marketing. And then when I got the opportunity to be a trainer and work with our global teams, I got to realize that in the teaching capacity, you're asking people to move out of their comfort zone and either better their skills or create new skills. So you're either in the learning or relearning stage. Uh-huh. And so change always was something that came up in the conversation. So from my past personal experience, I was able to be empathetic in the process and help walk people through those steps of change.
So, so now you were able to adapt, and did you realize in your lifetime, because remember from 6 years old, you left your native Puerto Rico, did you realize that you were actually assimilating and that you were easily adaptable, or was there a struggle there at some point? Was there a struggle?
I think the struggle came later in life, but you have to remember, as children, we have no filters. We don't judge things the way adults do. We don't have all those fears or inhibitions. We just basically, listen, I had a friend, I knew we were moving, I liked you the minute I met you, so let's play, let's just get this done, and I'll see you tomorrow, okay? I never really put a lot of attention to that. I think the biggest challenge we had was that, it disrupted our household. So we had to move constantly. But But once I got there, hey, hi, how are you? I'm Yvette. Nice to meet you. Let's play. You know, if I saw you the next day.
Okay.
So I think as a child, those filters were not in play. Change becomes harder as we get older, as we've lived a little, and people have told us more, and rules have been created. Because keep in mind, you know, you go from one stage to life to the other, and what
Right.
changes that are your experiences. So those
Right.
experiences change how I manage change later on.
Okay, beautiful. So now you become an adult,
Oh,
and you finally have a place that you guys finally settled, which was California.
right,
Okay, so at this point, I'm assuming that you're happy that you're settled and
happy.
happy and not ready to move and not ready to make any more changes, right?
No,
Okay,
but the
but you
thing about
ended somewhere else.
moved in Texas, but see, life is full of changes, and I think whether while we were in San Diego, you know, different things happen. You go from one school to the other. You make new friends. We were around communities and cultures that were different to us. We had a very big Pacific Islander community, so I'm meeting people from different communities, and I always welcome those changes and conversations about differences and things like that. So, you know, so the time the 90s came along and we were talking about cultural simulations and, you know, identities and,
You're like,
you know,
I know
perception.
that.
I'm like,
I
please,
know
I got
that.
this. I got this.
I've got this.
So,
Yeah.
you know, so the thing about it is that it just becomes, for me, it's just the way I live. I welcome change. I enjoy change. I embrace it in a different way than others. And I think that's what's helped me in the capacity I am today, because the biggest resistance I have with clients, or, you know, whether it's an individual or corporation, is how do we change the culture? How do we change the conversation? How do we change behaviors? And how do we create success from that?
Right.
And so
Right.
it's always a process, but the biggest component in that process is the emotional side of it. How do we release the old and do the new?
Right, right. So, so you have a career. When did you realize, Yvette, that you were no longer fit in that, and that you would go on your own? Because I know me, it was like my dad kept telling me, you know, you have all these, you know, degrees and you're so intelligent. Why are you working for somebody else? Why aren't you taking that and creating your own business? But I always thought, you know, working corporate, I mean, that's what I thought that's what I was kind of forced to do. So when I lost my job, that was for me when I was going to take that leap. So it was almost that place where you had no choice, but for you, it was a choice. You actually left what you were doing and you made the choice to make that transition.
Well, there's two sides to it. I met a gentleman, now a divorce. I got divorced and got remarried. So we both worked at the same company, and my job stayed the same, but his job function changed, and it required for him to work in a different state. And so we decided to make a family decision that we were going to stay together.
Okay.
So my job was in Houston. His job was going to be in Florida. And we made the decision that we were going to go to Florida, because I didn't want my job to be something, my family means way too much to me. And our daughter was in school. I wanted our family unit to stay together. So we made a family decision. Ironically enough, prior to that, I was already taking classes at night or on the weekends to figure out how do you create and run your own business. I was already feeling the need to lead, a little bit like you either make a decision or somebody makes it for you, but you know that you got to go.
Right.
So it was a combination of those two things. My combination was different than yours, but nonetheless,
Right.
I already knew that I was transitioning out. And then when this decision was made on a corporate level, I decided that it was time for me to go. Ironically enough, I started my business in Tampa, Florida, in a community that I had a lot of unknowns. It was just my husband, my daughter, and my 2 dogs. And I decided to start a company from scratch, helping people, there are small businesses, understand how culture impacts their business, how to create cultural business strategies. And again, I was talking a language that people didn't know. I was an unknown. Yo soy, I am, que eso. So I had a lot of struggles. But I think what happens is once you put your mind to it and you take that leap, things just start to flow. And
Okay.
just to let you know, I went from being an unknown in a community to a year later selected as one of the top 40 businesswomen in the city of Tampa.
Oh my goodness.
So
I love it.
you go from nada to something. And
Right. But always, right, isn't that's the intention, though you realize that that's the intention. When you
yeah.
are focused on making something work, it works.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
your effort is a reflection of your desires, and if your desires are to increase and be productive and start a business, well, guess what? You will increase, you'll be productive, and you'll be successful at your business.
Right, right, right. So you have a business called Yo Soy I Am. What made you name it that? What was it about? What was the focus?
Well, I'm complex, as you can see. I like to call myself special. So
And you
I'm
are.
I'm
I agree.
special. So my company is called Yo Soy I Am because I wanted to make sure that people understood how multiculturalism impacts their business. Everyone is multicultural.
Okay.
So it's not an outward appearance. It's mentally and emotionally. For instance, you have a home attitude and you have a business attitude. Like, you know how to survive at home in your multicultural family, but when you get to the corporate world, you know how to adapt. You dress, you act, you speak, you perform at a corporate environment. So you learn how to survive in that community. The marketplace is multicultural. You have to go out there and leverage business in communities that look and sound completely different than yourself. So Yo Soy I Am is about making sure that you understand that multiculturalism exists all the time. You don't turn it on or turn it off. Multiculturalism is my focus. So every training that I do always has a cultural capsule to it.
Okay. Okay. So you go from that and now you have this network, this amazing network. How did you transition? I don't even want to say transition because you're still Yo Soy I Am.
This is my main core business. Yes.
Right. But you kind of sprouted out.
I think what we have to feel comfortable in knowing that things evolve without you even really putting the intention to it.
Absolutely.
I decided to do, so let me just speak to this. I became a trainer and a facilitator and a consultant for small to mid-sized companies. Yvette, can you speak at an event? Yvette, can you be a panelist? Yvette, can you MC this? And I realized that people saw things in me that I didn't see for myself, and I was being invited to take on these various different roles.
Okay.
Then I became a coach. Coaching wasn't something that I intended to do, but it evolved into a coaching practice. So then I had to be trained to understand how can I maximize the effort with myself and a client who's sitting in front of me who wants results. I wanted to be effective, so I learned and became certified as a coach.
Okay.
So all these things evolved during time. So those of you who are thinking about starting a business, I want you to know entrepreneurship is a journey. You evolve from point here to point over here over time, and not always gracefully, because there's always those bumps in the road, but you learn from those bumps.
Right.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but in these interactions and these trainings and these speaking engagements and working with organizations like Latina Style, somehow or another, I always came back to women and Latina women, because now, whether I'm on stage or wherever, they're now identifying with me.
Okay.
So I moved into this space where a lot of my personal clients are coaching transition. I like to call them my transitional clients.
Right.
They're in that space where they're highly successful women who are looking to move into that next space, but there's fear and this lack of self-confidence.
Right.
And they just needed to. My goal is to eliminate a syndrome that I find a lot. It is the only and lonely syndrome.
Okay.
They feel like they're lonely and they're the only ones going through something, and they have no one to share with.
Okay. So I want to go back a little bit, and I want to talk about that evolution, because I think for most people think that however you start is how you're going to end. For me, my background is I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I started a practice, and from that practice, I also, I was doing counseling and therapy, and then from that, I also I was a certified coach. From that, I started getting an influx of people coming to me who wanted to start a business like me. And it was 2008. And they were struggling because they were baby boomers and they were losing their jobs and they weren't being hired by anybody. So it just became this perpetual evolution, whether I wanted this or not. It wasn't my choice. This is just how it was happening. And so you just find that you just dive in and you're like, well, I started helping them with what they were doing. And I realized, okay, so I need to go back to school and I need to learn. And then when I'm learning these things, I'm now have a totally different clientele. Maybe not a totally different clientele. My clientele evolves into even another clientele. So people think that where you start is where you end. This is your career. This is your academically. This is how you were prepared. If you start as a teacher, you could only be a teacher, and that's such a farce because
Yeah.
It's that limiting belief that can only. What happens is that pigeonholes you, and that's where I find that people really get stuck.
Right. Well, I want to bring back the word change. You have to be open to change. Things aren't meant to stay the same. They're not. And we're not the same people we were in our 20s. We weren't the same people we were in our 30s or 40s. And for those of us who are in our 50s, I mean, I will make different choices right now based on what I've experienced in life. If I had this knowledge, I would have made different decisions back in the 20s when I was in my 20s. But it didn't happen that way. I had to evolve. I had to change. I had to be open to it. But the reason I wanted to say that to you is because, as I mentioned, the evolution, I went from being in these big classroom settings or in corporate settings or meeting with entrepreneurs and their teams to coaching. What a place where I love is coaching women.
Okay.
And having that personal dialogue and finding out where those areas of fears or insufficiencies are, where these gaps are, where the disconnects are. And then part of it is that there was this lonely and only syndrome that kept coming up. Like, I'm the only one and nobody understands me here and at home. Like, for instance, we talk to our parents and we talk about these calls like Zoom or conference calls, and they're like, what is that? What is that? And you're like, you talk over the computer? Go ahead. So what is that? So We've evolved to that. But, someone from a different generation, they don't get it because we've evolved. And so there's these gaps in our community. So when I started Power on Heels Network, it's a digital platform on Facebook. And I've been blessed to be able to travel throughout this country, and I created a following of women who call me and clients that are around the country. And so the platform, the Power on Heels Network, is made up of women from all over the country. I engage them through daily dialogue, whether it's just yesterday was One Word Wednesday. Describe success in one word. What is, I pose questions, I do surveys. And it's to get women from all over the country to add in to share.
Right.
To share. And the other part too is to share with each other, not necessarily with me. The other thing is that I try to do here locally in the Houston area, at least a quarterly event where we get to meet and talk in person, a powerful question. We kind of walk around the room and find out how everybody feels about it, and then get these women to get to meet each other, because we spend a lot of time maybe at work, but we don't know each other,
Right.
We don't really know each other. And then last year I had a conference, which I called the Power on Heel Conversations. And it was so awesome. I'm doing it again this October again.
Okay,
But
I'm going to be there. I want yes.
Oh, I have to
will
tell
be
you,
there.
it went from no event to a one-day event. Now it's going to be a two-day event. Because you see,
Fabulous.
we evolve. And the other thing is now there's community understanding of this. There's backing behind it, and support from the women that are benefiting from this program. And they're women from all walks of life, cultural backgrounds, age. It's just this feeling of just being together, and figuring out things together. So I love it. But again, it was an evolution.
Right.
It came from hearing these conversations that I was having one-on-one. And I realized, let's make this bigger.
Right. Right. And that's exactly what it is. It's just it starts evolving from one thing to the next. And before you know it, you've really created a movement. And that's pretty much what you have here. You have a movement because
Mm-hmm.
here are women that need you, women that need what you have to give them.
Mm-hmm.
And you have it available to them. So so let me ask you, so then you have these events, and these events are specifically for who, and what do these events look like, and who are you attracting and why?
Um, my my following is are the women, the members of this organization, this platform. They're diverse. They're women who are professionals who are highly influential in their communities. We have students. We have women of different backgrounds, African American, white, Latinas, Asian. We are a very diverse community. I think the common conversation is that are women coming together to engage, empower, and support one another. And that's the foundation of all of this. So so women who it grows because someone comes, finds value, and they invite their community or invite their friends. So just to kind of share with you, a year ago in May was this platform was launched.
Okay.
And from May to October, we had a conference, and from then to now, we have, let's see, the event was planned for 40 women in October. This October, we planned for over 200 women.
Wow.
That's how fast the demand and the movement is taken, because there's a real need out there, and we're having conversations, and people are looking side to side and go, you have that problem too? I thought I was the only one. So that's why my goal is to remove the lonely syndrome out of our lives. We're not the only ones. But I want to say something to you, and I don't know if you've all picked up on this, and you too, Nilda, is I use the word power a lot.
A lot, yes.
A lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I do that with great intention.
Okay.
And it is because is that as we grew up in a household that our rules and how we behave was dictated. Our DNA was dictated. Our culture and all of that was dictated before you were even born. It was set in stone, right? Then you go to school and you do this educational learning, and you learn how to stand in line and raise your hand and do all these things. So all these conversations throughout us growing up were where people were guiding you through life and telling you what to do and not to do. So a lot of decision making was involved in this process. You were being told. And so I hope that's a fair statement to say.
Yes.
Then you go to college and you're forced to make a choice. What are you going to be when you grow up?
Right.
And you go, I have no idea. So you pick something. Okay, I'll do this, I'll do that. And you do the work, and you end up with a degree and things at the end. Then you do, and I call that our predicted state. Everything you're doing is predicted. The next state is our productive state, where you take all this applied learning and you're now putting it into a workforce. You're being productive. You're making money, and with that money, you're creating new experiences, and you're moving a little further away from some of those norms that you've had. You're traveling now. You may be moving to a different community, and you're having new experiences. So your mind and your attitude is changing, but you're still being productive.
Right.
What I'm running into is that that 30 or 40, maybe in that 50-year-old is tired of being in that predicted and productive state. They're looking for that more purposeful state. Yeah, I was a social worker all these years, and I helped people, but I want to change the way I help people to a different way.
Exactly. It's so amazing that you would say that. So when I went back to school, and I have my doctorate in global business and strategic foresight, I remember sitting down with, I had an interview with the school, and I remember sitting down with the dean of the school, who said, oh, so, I told him a little bit about my background. He goes, oh, so you're looking to change. I'm like, no. And it was so funny, because it was like, it just hit me, and it was almost like, I just like jumped to my defense, and I was like, absolutely not. I'm looking to enhance. How is this different? It's just a different way of doing what I do. And I remember I said that, and it was so spontaneous and so quick. And then I was like, ooh, I'm sorry about that. But it was for me, it was like, so it was logical. It made sense to me. But when people see you doing something like going from helping people in therapy and in counseling, and you go from that to helping people's businesses, they're like, how can they even be
There's
one
a
and the same?
disconnect.
There's such a disconnect. But isn't that the whole of a person? Like, we're more than just a daughter or a mom or a wife. We're all of these things that encompass us. So why is that different? Why should we treat careers different? So
Well,
that's
it's so funny you talk about these roles we have in our lives. These roles come with expectations. They all have expectations, and they also have responsibilities. And
absolutely.
so ladies, if you're there, sorry, gentlemen, I'm going to talk to the ladies right now. So if you're a man and you're listening, no offense here, okay?
Tell your wife.
Okay, but don't send me any mean tweets or anything like that. I'm not interested. But what I'm saying to you as ladies is that we are notorious to defer our power. We take on these roles as wife, as mother, as daughter, as neighbor, employees seriously. And we make these commitments, and we understand that with that, we have to perform certain responsibilities and tasks to accomplish those things, okay? What happens is now you've gone through that predictive state, good daughter, good neighbor, good person. Now you're a good student, good teacher, and then you get to this 30 or 40-year-old age, and then you're sitting there going, but I'm not happy. I'm doing all these things, and I'm moving in these spaces, and I'm being successful, but there's something more, and something's missing from my life. Most importantly, you're not committing time to self.
Right. And let's go back a little bit. Here's the thing. You've given away your power.
You've deferred it. You deferred it. You didn't give it away. You just deferred it. It's there, but you're just letting other things take power around you. And so whether it's your job description or and listen, ladies, this is okay, because listen, I've done it too. I have a 32-year-old, I have a 29-year-old, I've raised children, I've been married, twice, single mom, worked. I mean, I'm not speaking from a place of, of leisure.
Right.
Trust me, I understand. But I think what happened is that I don't know how it happened for all of you, but I can tell you what happened to me. I got to an age, I was 35 years old, a single mom with 2 girls who depended on me for everything. And yes, they had their father in their lives sometimes, but the reality is I was the person who they were counting on. And I realized at that point that I had not made a decision on my own for myself in a very long time, if ever, at that point.
Right.
And what I do now is I didn't have the capacity to even have a conversation with someone at that point that even remotely reflects what I do now. But I had a job, I had to make a living, I had to take care of people. So life has a way of...
And you did it very well, did you not? Because
I did.
How we do it,
That's what we do. That's our DNA. We have this, and our DNA is we get through it.
Right.
So what happened doesn't matter, but what needed to happen, that's where I had to focus on. And so I realized that in order for me to get in a position of power, I had to invest in myself. I couldn't depend on other people to lift me up. I couldn't depend on other people to give me encouraging words. I couldn't depend on anyone. I had to force myself to make it work for me. And so I started this positive talk and these daily affirmations. I started speaking power back into myself. So the reason I'm sharing that with you, and I'm not trying to lead to the book, but the book is really a reflection of what I had to do to become who I am right now. Right. And what I do constantly, and it's letting people know, it's letting people know it's okay to be a mother, a wife, and a daughter, but I want you to make you a priority. You can't defer your power away to the point where you feel powerless and you don't feel worthy, or you don't feel deserving, you don't feel all these things about yourself.
Yeah, I have to tell you, as a therapist, what happens is that you become very angry, and then you blame others for not being, I'm unhappy and it's somebody else's fault, but it's not. You never actually positioned yourself for that happiness. You never actually did that. And I think that's where there's that breakdown, because we're so afraid of this impacting our lives negatively. We're so afraid of the change that, we'd rather become angry than actually addressing, the issues and saying, you know what, I need to do certain things for myself. And it's no longer my responsibility to take care of everyone. And the reality, going back a little bit, honestly, the reality is that people do not value what you give them. So sometimes you need to make them work a little bit for it. What's wrong with them having to work and you not handing them things?
Yeah.
And I think that's it's key here. It's key that people need to understand, and especially women, because men have no problem. We call them selfish, but they're not. They're like, wait, no, I need to take care of me. I need to have, me time. I need to go golf. I need to whatever, I need to go watch my game, my football game. They have no problem with that. And we as women, we accept that. We're like, oh no, this is a sacred time. But we don't have it.
Now, I don't want people to go out and be totally disruptive and say,
no.
Look, because I just want to put that disclaimer out there.
Right.
But I think what happens is I want to raise your awareness. Awareness means that you have new information and you want to just have some understanding about it. And the understanding is not about anybody else but yourself. What you have to ask yourself, what am I missing? What do I really want to do? What would happen if I left my house for 3 hours to go really spend some time by myself? How about I'm going to bed early tonight because I have a book I want to read. And I just need some quiet time. Or just, what, you guys figure dinner out, I'll be home at 7. Why is that? And I know you may have little kids, but it starts with little different things where you just help them become people more independent. Right. Let me just give you an example. If the phone rings, do you answer it or does it go to message? I'm saying
me.
Okay.
If I can't take that message at that time, I have no problem. But I have to tell you that I had to learn, because that wasn't easy for me.
So take a step, learn. You know what? If what happens? This is what happens. People ask you to do things all the time, and you know why they ask you? Because they know you're going to say yes. That's it. Learn to say no. Right. Right. Say no. Just say no. Keep saying no.
I
because. Okay, but this is what you do. You know what? I have to get back to you. Stall them. If you can't say no, stall them. That's how it begins. You take gradual steps. Because you see, the person who needs you to do something, they're looking for you to do it right now. They need to answer right now. Because you didn't say yes, guess what forces them to do? They have to keep looking for someone else to say yes. Right. So they won't come back and ask you. So okay, you're safe. But eventually I'll get back to you later, it turns into, no, I can't do that. Because this is what I'm saying to you right now. If you say yes to somebody else's stuff, then you have to say no to something that's important to you. That's less time you can spend with your family. That's less time that you can spend with your girlfriends. That's less time you can spend for yourself. So you can take on something from somebody else. So every time you say yes, you got to say no to you. I'm saying say no to them and say yes to you.
To you, right. And time management that's another thing, because that can be very frustrating too, because you're the one that's going to bed at 3 a.m. because you get to do the things you needed to do.
Right.
And so that's why, that's one of the lessons that I've had to learn. And I think in the last few years, I've really mastered it. And I've had people who are very surprised. They're like, oh, let me call you, I can't talk to you now. Let me call you at 4. And I'm like, I'm not available at 4. You know what? If you want to, why don't we schedule this for next week? They're like, oh, well, excuse me. But the reality is that, I have things to do. And when I have downtime, that's me time. And I don't want to be on the phone.
And you get to the point where you start cherishing those moments that you have for yourself.
Absolutely.
See, it shifts from being guilty, because the first time you do it, you feel uncomfortable. You're like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I feel incómoda. So what I'm saying to you is the second or third time, you're like, please, you protect it. You plan it. You make it work. You make it work. And why? And the people who love you and honor you, they will love and honor that time for you too. They're going to say to you, no, Mom, you need this time. Or honey, go ahead and do that. Don't worry. They're not giving you permission, but they start seeing that you have to. So we have a saying at my house, and you are welcome to adapt it to your house. But if La Reina's not happy, nobody's happy.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
It has to work because you know what? I'm the center. You're the center. We're all the centers of our families. We guide and move everybody. We make things happen. And if you're dysfunctional and you're not in a good place, guess what happens? The dysfunction goes outward.
Absolutely.
And so this is really important. So the word deferring power means is that you still own this power, but you simply allow situations and people to take over those things that you desire. And it gets to the point where you do so much for others and you get so caught up in what you're doing, you forget what's important to you. So I want to remind you, when we were little, all of us, we used to sing and with a hairbrush, and we used to sing in front of the mirror, and every day somebody said to you, hey, what are you going to be when you grow up? You would say you were going to be a doctor, a movie star,
Absolutely.
and you weren't going to be everything.
At once.
On
the same day.
You didn't even think about it. It just happened, and you believed it, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
My question to you, what happened to that little girl? How come I can ask a 40-year-old woman if she's happy in what she's doing, what's next in the next 5 years of her life? Where does she want her career to move to? Is there a book in her future? And they can't answer me.
Right.
They're not sure. They're thinking about all these little things that they're doing, these projects and the family vacation they're planning and all these things, and they don't have an answer about themselves. But they know one thing is they're not happy. They're not in this place of joy. They're not in a place where they just feel like, a value. So how do we shake that up?
Right. How do we shake that up? So for something like this, do you feel that women, because you namely work with women, that they should invest in personal development?
I think so. Listen, we can learn and relearn all the time. Mm-hmm. And I have I say this in every seminar, and I'm going to say it right now, is you don't know what you don't know. You know what you want, you know why you want it, but you don't know how to do it. Right. So by investing in yourself and getting these trainings, and whether it's online, whether it's a YouTube video, or whether it's a night course at the junior college or on campus somewhere, or hiring a coach or a trainer or a facilitator or even getting a mentor to begin the conversation to guide you into how to become that person that you want to become.
So what do you feel is the biggest challenge for women and or your clients that they're facing today in the marketplace? Because it's personal, but this, the things, if you're not happy, this is going to be reflective in your home, in your job, in your business, because you're going to always feel that stuck place. And that's a really uncomfortable place.
It's not good.
Painful, but painful.
Yeah, I always tell people, you got to get in your seat. You got to move around. Get in your seat and just move around and just create movement.
Right.
So let me just say something about all that is that women want something, but they're not always sure that they deserve it, that they have the courage to take place. So where I feel women lack. And please don't take this in the wrong way, but I think we lack in self-confidence. Because we're always thinking about so many other things and other people, we don't always see that in ourselves.
Right.
Okay. And so,
and let's face it though, Yvette, let's be honest. One of the things that we were groomed to be was people serving. And I know as a Latina, definitely. So when you want to do things your way, or when you want to take your time, that makes you selfish. And nobody wants to be coined selfish. So what do? We make the sacrifices, and then we one of the things that I dealt with in my practice for so many years was people. I remember somebody asked me, what is at the core, what is the biggest, the thread that you find within so many people, the people that you see? And I'm like, that's resentment. But you know what? Even right now, as a business coach and consultant, I find the same thing, resentment, because people resent, well, I haven't made this change or this shift, or my business hasn't been this successful because, and then they blame all these people, my family, this, I don't have enough help, I've hired the wrong people. And I find it's the same thing, but the reality is, when is it your responsibility, and when do you say, you know what, this is how I'm going to do it, and set those goals for yourself? So a lot of people spend a lot of time in resentment because they never actually took the step.
Well, they're not in control.
They've given it away.
They've given it away. And so it's easy to deflect because you've done everything for everyone else. So because it's not working, it's their fault, not your fault. But
Right.
you're not in control. So we have to kind of, there's a lot of shifts that have to take place. It's ownership, that awareness state. You have to understand, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? You're doing it because somebody told you you can do it and you can make money. And then, it's like, for instance, I have a friend who did multi-level marketing. There's all these little different businesses out there, right? They teach you a system, and then you buy into the system, but you don't learn the system. And 6 months later, you throw it away. You say, I'm not involved anymore because it didn't make me any money. But you didn't take control. You didn't learn the information. You didn't learn the system. So guess what? You're not going to be successful. It's not the system that was broken. It's that you didn't take the initiative to learn. And so we all have the ability to learn. Like, for instance, corporate America, when you're in an environment, they do all the marketing, they create the branding, they create the programs, you either sell it, you manage it, you're part of the operations, you're somewhere. But while you're doing your role, there's all these other things taking place.
Absolutely.
When you walk into entrepreneurship and you set up your shingle as ABC Corporation, you're everything. You mop floors, you turn on the light, you pay the bills, and you're the dog and pony show. You're it. Okay. Absolutely. So the thing about it is that you may have a skill in this area, but you have to learn how to do all these other things and learn it to the point, even if you have to hire somebody, what kind of questions to ask, what expectations you can ask for those people. Because even though you're paying them money to do your bookkeeping, you still have to know, did you pay my quarterly taxes? Did you pay my payroll tax? Did you do this? Did you get the 1099 from them? You have to know areas of their business. You don't have to do their business, but you have to have enough knowledge to understand that's part of my business. I'm paying this person to do it, but I need to know how to ask those questions. That's training, that's evolving, and that's part of this business. What I think that we have to feel comfortable in is encouraging people, one, to understand that the decision to invest in yourself is one of the most important decisions you will make.
Right. And I say the same things to people in business. So as a foresight strategist, I come in and what I do is that I help them create a strategy for growth. And not only for now, not only for today, but for 5 years and up to 25 years out. Yes, up to 25 years out. So that's how I prepare them. So this becomes this evolution of change, which people are, first of all, they're afraid of change. And the reality is that you have no choice. See, change is going to happen whether you want it to happen or not. So I come in and I help them in this process, but I find that there's so much fear and there's so much, and even when I have to tell you, and this is the part that just blows me away, even when they've paid me to come in and do the job, they're afraid of taking the steps and actually implementing.
There's resistance.
But underlying, it's fear. That resistance is because they're afraid. They're afraid, after I do that, it may not work. And I tell you, this is where, for me, having my background in as a therapist really makes a huge difference, because I'm able to kind of detect that and I'm able to start working with that as I'm going along, because I see that after I've done all this work and you're all gung-ho, and then you don't do anything with it.
Well, I have to tell you, that's such an added value. Not only creating business strategies for business, but you're analyzing them at the same time too. You need to put that as an added value. I do
It
therapy for it.
absolutely is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
And for me, the same thing happens too, because I'm coming in to speak to, to work with someone, and, whether it's an accounting firm, a law firm, I've worked with major corporations, restaurant companies. There's something wonderful about traditions, but I like to say traditions are a great guideline to who we are and who will we become, but it doesn't dictate it. And I think one of the challenges that we have is that we hold on to the norms, and because they just feel good. But the reality of it is that you've been changing for so long, you just don't realize it.
Right.
But the degree of change is also the degree of your success. If you take calculated risk, you're going to get calculated success.
Absolutely.
So you pick it. But the thing is I think what you and I are both saying is you got to make a choice. You can't stay in safe zone forever.
Because the reality is that there is no such thing as safe zone. That's what I tell my businesses. There's no such thing as safe zone. What happens? Things are going to change anyway, and then you're going to be forced to make the change, but you're making it so late that you're going to become very frustrated.
Right.
So the change is going to happen. That's not really up to you. Things are going to change. It's just life. And in this era, things are changing so quickly. So there's going to be a change. So now you decide, do you want to be ahead of that change, or do you want to lag behind? That will be your choice.
And so back to me being this person who's dealt with change their whole lives. One of the most important things that I'm telling people is that based on what you just said, either change is going to happen to you, for you, all right?
Or against you.
Or against you, but either way, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. You can't avoid it. And so whether in your personal life or in your business life, it's going to happen. And one of the things that you have to do is you have to adapt, or you take it on head on and create the change that you want.
Exactly.
Listen, I work I tell people all the time, I work from home. Most of my clients, I use technology to reach them. Yes, I see them on a personal basis when we can, but right now technology is the way I conduct business. 8 years ago, 10 years ago, it was face-to-face, but technology creates something of added value to my customers, and that is convenience. So if I didn't adapt, I lose a big chunk of my business. That's a reality I had to make from my business standpoint. On a personal standpoint, I had to embrace it. I had to learn. I had to go out and talk to people. I had to take classes. Why? Because that's the change that's taking place that I can benefit from. See, change, people always see change as bad. Change is good. I believe that change always takes you up. It's like an onion. It creates layers. You never lose your core. It just adds layers of information on top. It's kind of like outerwear,
Exactly.
You wear your outfit and you wear that coat, and then if it's not enough, you put on a scarf. From a fashion perspective, we layer up all the time, and we always manage to look good.
Right.
This is what change is. It's taking that core of who you are and adding just dressing you up in a whole different way.
Absolutely.
See it differently, speak it differently, and it will help you. And the reason I wanted to get to that point about speaking it differently is because it comes back to that idea of that we defer so much power to our friends and our family in these roles in our lives. And that's okay, because you do it out of love and you do it out of concern. But I want to bring it back to that point of self-love and self-concern and reinvesting in you. Ladies, I know I'm still talking to you. I know you're listening, gentlemen. But we get to the point where we stress and we do so much, we become sick, and what happens to your family and those people that you love, your business as well, if you start to break down and you're not prepared and you're not in a good place.
Absolutely.
So whether it's about this conversation that you're listening to, or a book or a training, remember, everything you're doing is to make you better so you can continue to serve and give with love.
Absolutely.
But you're making yourself a priority. And this is where you become healthy, you stay healthy. I share this, I shared with you in the very beginning, I'm 55 years old, but I've had health crises. It affected my business. It affected my funnel of business. And it took me almost 8 months to recuperate where I was to where I was before I got sick.
Right.
Okay. All of these things, things happen unexpectedly. Right. Our DNA dictates that. Our lifestyle dictates that.
Right.
So we have to be in that place. We always have to be in a good place.
Right.
So one of the things I shared with you earlier was I went through my crisis. I've gone through various crises, and I don't live on those crises I like to say, I don't want to be a victim of my circumstances. What I'm saying is put that stuff in a box, a nice big wooden box. Put a lock on it. But then what I want you to do is I want you to stand on top of it and look forward and see the horizon without dealing with any of that stuff. That's elevated you to a different place.
Okay.
So I'm saying these things is because it comes back to that word power again.
Right. Okay. So we're coming to the top of the hour, and I want to talk about the book. I want you to tell me what the book is about. When we spoke a few months back, you were still in the process of finishing the book. Tell me about the book. What is it about? Who is it for? All that awesome stuff.
Well, the book is about, the title is A 30-Day Guide to Your Power, Powerful Outcomes Through Powerful Words. It was written from a place of self-discovery. I actually wrote this book over 3 years ago. I sat down and said, I'm going to write this book. And I spent a long time writing it out. And one day I walked away from it and said, I'll come back to it. 3 years later, which was last October, somebody said to me, actually, Ivette, you should write a book. I said, I did. And I wanted you to know that book, I couldn't find it on my hard drive. I spent days, I couldn't remember what I called it. I finally found it on a Friday afternoon. I read it. I got re-engaged. I finished it, but that book became not one, but 2 books.
Okay.
And so at that point, I realized that my story, it was really now the time to say, this is what I want to tell people. So the book is written, it's focused on women. It's a self-help book on how to change your language, how you speak about yourself. We've been told we are these things, Latinas, women, I've been told I'm very passionate. Okay. Because when I have an idea and I'm excited about something, oh my God, I'm so gun-ho. Right. But in a corporate world, I was pulled into a meeting and told, Yvette, you need to stop being so angry. And I'm like, but
that's cultural. That's cultural. Yes.
But how do you go from being excited and about creating a project and creating a successful, outcomes for the team to being called into an office and told you're angry? That's a disconnect. Because passionate and anger is not always the same.
Right.
But one of the things that I wanted women to feel is that they can't continue to defer their power in all these situations, that they can't depend on other people to be the ones to lift them up, to completely understand them, that they need to build themselves up. They need to change how they speak about themselves, what they say about themselves. Okay. So if you change what you say, you change what you think, you change what you feel, but most importantly, you change what you do. Okay. So I walk you through not only understanding why that's important, we do a personal SWOT. I make you really create some awareness in your life. I ask you some questions about your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Okay.
And then I created what I call a power ritual, which I'm asking you now to invest a little time every day into you and what you want to accomplish. Okay. Now we've all heard of affirmations.
Yes.
I call them affirmations because it's about you. They're I statements about you. Okay. And then it's about using affirmations to change your I attitude. Oh, okay. It's your attitude about self. Because this is about the power of I, making you the most powerful you ever. So we have a mantra that you simply
and all
say.
Of this is in the book.
It's all in the book. Okay. The book, here it is. It's on Amazon. But I
Okay.
walk you through each of these steps. And then for 30 days, I walk you through writing and creating your daily affirmation. I create one following the model that's in the book. And then
Okay.
I encourage you in the book to write your daily affirmation. We do
Okay.
that for 30 days. But
That's awesome. All right. So if they want the book, where do they go for the book?
Amazon.com, you'll find it under in the book section. It's a 30-day guide to your power. You can even put my name in the search item, but it's there.
Ivette Mayo.
And Ivette with an I.
I.
But we'll be providing you the link.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can follow me on Facebook, of course, and
Okay.
so I put all this stuff on social media. But
Okay.
you know, one thing too is I'm really committed to helping. It's not just the 30 days. So I had a quiet moment and a creative moment. So there's 2 books.
Okay.
This is called the Power Ritual Journal. So
Okay.
after you finish this for 30 days, I want to
All right.
encourage you to continue to do it. So I've created this journal. That way you can continue for another 30 days. The
Awesome.
ritual is restated, and
Okay.
then you
So there's 2 books, and they buy both the books through Amazon.
through Amazon. So
Okay.
they look the same, but
Okay.
one is the 30-day guide. The other one is the Power Ritual Journal.
Oh, okay. Okay. Fabulous. So, Yvette, it was such a pleasure to have you here. I want people to go online on Facebook and go to, where do they go to find you there?
Well, Ivette Mayo, and that's
Okay.
Ivette with an I, don't forget that. And so not only can you find me on Facebook under Ivette Mayo, that's also at Ivette Mayo on Twitter, also Ivette Mayo on Instagram. So I try to keep all of that. And then please, if you'd like to get engaged with our online network,
Okay.
it is called the Power on Heels Network.
Okay.
And you'll see that information there. But certainly invite you guys to, chime in on conversations.
Okay.
But and then one of the things too is I don't know where you're going to be, but there I'm doing a Texas book tour. I'll be in Miami in a few weeks. I'll be in California in a few weeks, and hopefully in the Northeast.
Okay. Will you be coming to New York anytime soon?
I was just in New York. I was there to do the Unstoppable Latina Conference. It was amazing. But there's something in the works, so I'll let you know soon.
Absolutely. I am so looking forward to it. Okay, so and when they're on Facebook, you let them know about your live events, where you're going to be, so they can actually follow you on Facebook, and you give them all of this information, right?
It's all there. I try to keep those things. I try to guide people to anything that's a live event, or if we're doing a webinar. And there's just different, unique, amazing things that are happening. And again,
Fabulous.
It's bringing this collective power together. And
Awesome.
if you're listening, lonely syndrome is going away. You are not alone. I want you to plug into the power.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you so much, Yvette. I loved having you here, and again, we'll be bringing you back soon to either your next book or your next event. I think this is really important that women get this information. This is very core to any kind of change. So I'm really excited. I love Just the Way I Am, and I love everything that you represent. Thank you for being another Latina that is doing awesome things in the world. Changing the world one person at a time, right?
Well, yes, and 2 hashtags. Hashtag power on, but together we're better.
Amen.
So
I love it. I love it. Okay, dear. Thank you so much. I loved having you here, and again, we will stay in touch.
I love it.
Soon.
Take care, everybody. Okay. Power on. Hashtag.
Okay. Bye.
I want to thank you for being with us on Business Foresight, always creating strategies towards an extraordinary future. Remember, I'm here with you with strategies every Saturday. I'll see you next week.